Why would you ever want to put a sponge on a jig hook? Think about it. 30 days has September, April, June, and November. That's right, sports fans, guys and girls. It is June 30. June 30, the last day of the first half of 2020. You know, 2020 has not necessarily been a fantastic year for the world, not necessarily been a fantastic year for America, and a lot of people have lost a lot of money, been a lot of crazy things going on in America. But remember, God is still on the throne. And we're going to look at Psalms 39:11, and it says, "But the Lord's plans will stand forever." Forever. But the Lord's plans will stand forever. His ideas will last from now on. So we think about first half of 2020 is gone. We think about 2020 years since the birth of Jesus Christ. But what it says in God's Word in Psalms is God's ideas are going to last forever from now on, never going to quit. So what's happened the last 6 months? Really just a little blip in the history of time. It means nothing for eternity. Let's see what I wrote about that. At the Bassmaster Classic in Charlotte, North Carolina in 2004, I ran into a longtime great friend of mine I hadn't seen in quite a few years, John Hall. John was an excellent tournament fisherman for many, many years, but he hadn't competed in a while. And John told me that he had terminal cancer, and he had come to the Classic to visit with as many of his old friends as he could. It was great to see him, and it meant a great deal to me that he came by to visit. It meant a lot to me. I knew that I might never see him again this side of heaven. As we grow older, we see more and more of our friends grow through these types of problems. We all have a God-appointed time to leave this earth. We all have a God-appointed time, a God-appointed day to leave this earth. That means that I have a day on God's calendar when I'll leave this earth. You have a day on God's calendar when you'll leave this earth. He's already prepared a better place for you and me to spend forever. He's already got that place prepared for us. Now, you know, I haven't worried too much about the riots and the things that's going on here in America. I haven't worried too much about the coronavirus because as one of my friends on YouTube commented, "Jimmy, don't worry about that stuff. None of us is going to walk out of here alive anyway." And that's true. You know, some of us might fly out of here if Jesus comes back before we die, before we reach that God-appointed day. But none of us are going to walk out of here. None of us are going to walk out of here. And if God's got planned for us to die on a certain day, it doesn't matter about anything else. The virus, if it's a virus, it's a virus. If it's a car wreck, it's a car wreck. You know, we've lost a lot of our friends as we've grown older. We'll continue to do that. And one of these days, somebody's going to be calling my friends and saying, "Guess what happened to Jimmy?" That's about 20 years hence, about age 95. Remember that, age 95. That's what Jimmy's appointed day is. God told me that one time. God told me that. And so that's still 20 years. Not quite 20 years down the way, but it's pretty good ways down the way. But I have had just here recently, as a matter of fact, a couple of my friends on YouTube. One of them had his best fishing buddy and his closest friend commit suicide. Another one just told me yesterday that their son passed away in a car wreck just about a week ago, a couple weeks ago. So we're going to lose a lot of our friends. We're going to have friends that have that day appointed by God when they leave this earth. You just got to be ready. Here's our tip for today, and I don't know what y'all guessed on this, why you add a sponge to a jig hook. A small sponge on your jig hook can help hold fish attractant scent. That's right. That's the reason you add it on there, is so you can put a little scent on there, and that sponge will smell a little bit more like, like what it's supposed to smell like, whether it's a shad scent or garlic scent or a night crawler or what crawfish, whatever you might put on that jig hook. The other thing that'll do, and I'm sure some of you said this too, because I know how great a fisherman some of y'all really, really are. Some of y'all amaze me by your knowledge about bass fishing. But some of you might say, well, if you put a little sponge on there, it might cause that bait to float a little higher and sink a little slower. And that's absolutely a correct answer too. But the answer to the one I asked about was to put a little scent on there. And it always helps to add scent to your lure. You know, researchers have found that a fish can smell like, I think if I remember correctly, 25 times or 125 times or something greater than a dog can. And let me tell you, it is amazing how well a dog can smell. Way, way better than we can. And a deer, it's incredible. You know, Chris brought some bread out this morning out to feed some other baby deer, little tiny babies, and brought some bread out. She put it under her shirt so Lucy and Milburn wouldn't see it. She came out there and we were feeding this to these little baby deer, and Lucy and Milburn both come around behind her and were sticking their head underneath her shirt. She never got within about 30 or 40 yards of those deer when they walked out. Fish can smell really well too. So add some scent to your bait, pretty good things to do. Guys and girls, go out there and have you a great one. Let's all make the second half of 2020 better than the first half. I love you.